Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to Premier League predictions for the second time this week, Sophie. We've had some crazy games in midweek and now we are back with some Premier League action for the weekend. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. It's been a good week.
Yes, it has been. It's been pretty dramatic. On the last Premier League predictions video, Sophie, you set us a like target of 2,000, which we failed to do. Give us another like target.
Right, I'll go a little bit lower then. 1,900.
Right, guys, this is a call to action. Make sure you hit that bloody thumbs up button. I know most of you do, but some of you aren't, and you're letting the side down here. Hit that like button. It just really helps the video perform well. And while you're there, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to do that. Come on, let's push this channel in the right direction. No more of this not clicking the like button stuff. Get involved. The scores on the doors so far, Sophie, are there. These are the scores from the 8 Premier League games that have played out so far. Do bear in mind that 2 games are playing out on Thursday, and that is the day we are releasing this video. The overall score up there as well. But with all that said, Sophie, let's just jump into some Premier League predictions. And we're going to kick things off at Goodison Park, where we've got Everton versus Tottenham Hotspur, Sophie. This one I find really interesting. You've got Sean Dyche versus big Ange Postecoglou. You've got Everton and Spurs, who have both been spoke about in quite high regards, it seems, this season. Tottenham at the very start of the season, everyone's like, oh God, look at them, don't they look good? And Everton, you know, despite the points deduction, everyone's saying, look at them, they're doing brilliant despite all of the problems off the pitch. I think it all boils towards a pretty close game. Spurs are quite open. They're still missing Son, who's still going in the Asian Cup. But you know, they've got James Maddison back now. Everton are just trying to keep the points being churned on. It was 0-0 against Fulham last time, which I've got to give you credit for. Really good prediction to say 0-0 for that. I think there will be a couple goals in this one. Do you know what? I'm going to go for Everton. I think Everton might just snatch it, you know. I'm going to go Everton 2-1. They need 3 points because they're now in the bottom 3.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go the other way. I wouldn't be surprised if it is a tight game. As you've said, Spurs play quite open football, so they are likely to concede against Everton, but I feel like they're also just as likely to put 2 past them. So I'm going to give them a win, and I think that'd be a big win, to be honest. Not a great result for Everton. No, that wouldn't be a great result for Everton, of course. They are in the bottom 3, and with Luton Town's result in midweek, the pressure's piled on Everton and Nottingham Forest somewhat, especially with possible points deductions still to come, but that's all speculation at the moment. But I'm going for Everton, you're going for Spurs. On to the next one, Sophie, and we've got Brighton versus Crystal Palace. If you'd have asked me to predict this one a week ago, it'd have been Brighton. Now, I'm not sure, you know. Yeah. What a great result for Palace against Sheffield United. I mean, Sheffield United made it difficult for them, but Palace got the 3 goals, and it was the main men, Eze and Elise, getting involved with the goals. 3, yeah.
But Brighton, Sophie, I mean, they got smashed by Luton. We're going to come on to Luton in a bit, but Brighton have really been exposed in that game. I think Palace should come here and smell blood. They should really go for this, and if they go for the throat, who knows? They might be able to beat Brighton while they're down. I'm going to go for a draw, though. I reckon Brighton might just get back up on their feet and fight Palace off somewhat, but their confidence has got to have taken a beating in that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Brighton 1, Palace 1.
I feel like Brighton need to get back to winning ways. With Palace, it totally depends if Elise and Eze are having a good game. If those 2 aren't in it, Palace aren't getting anything from this game. It's hard to back Brighton after their absolute pummeling by Luton, but as I say, they've got to get back to winning ways after that. So 2-1.
Okay.
Crazy.
It could happen though. It very much could happen. Share your thoughts, guys, if you're a Brighton or Palace fan. I suppose it's very in the Premier League's nature for one team to have won, one team to have been smashed, and then they
switcheroo.
Yeah, they switch it around. Okay, on to the next one, Sophie. This is a big game at Turf Moor where Burnley take on Fulham. Now, the reason I say it's a big game, Burnley only 1 win at home this season. Fulham only 1 win away this season. Doesn't feel like there's a lot to separate the two. In terms of the overall table, Fulham are further up it. They've been playing pretty well recently, but they're drawing blanks, aren't they? 0-0 against Everton, 2-0 loss at home to Newcastle.
Yeah.
Maybe against Burnley, they might be able to get it in the back of the net. And to be honest, yeah, it might suit Fulham this because Burnley play open, but it could also work in Burnley's favour. I think there'll be goals in this one. I'm going to go... Let's go interesting, actually.
Okay.
Burnley 2, Fulham 3. I reckon Fulham are just going to squeeze a pretty entertaining game at Turf Moor.
Okay. I'm almost going for the opposite in a way. I'm going to say a low-scoring one in favour of the home side. I feel like Burnley might just get it over the line just because Fulham haven't been at their best in recent weeks.
No.
So they might back it up with another poor performance. Burnley are going to capitalise on it and get the 3 points. 1-0.
1-0, yeah. Let's be honest, Burnley need a win, don't they?
They do.
They need a win. Okay, on to the next one, Sophie, and we go to St James's Park. How about this? Newcastle United versus Luton Town. I mean, you've got to give both of them so much credit for their results on Tuesday. Let's start with Newcastle, Sophie. Newcastle United went away to Aston Villa and they won 3-1.
Yeah.
No one's been winning at Villa this season, so well done, Newcastle.
Yeah. Good, really, really good result.
Yeah, really good result. A lot of people have been saying Newcastle are struggling. They're falling away. They're not quite on the same levels as some of these teams. That is a massive statement result, and if they win this one, they'll start to close the gap. With Newcastle United being out of the Carabao Cup and the Champions League, I think, put all your eggs into the FA Cup and finishing as high as you can in the Premier League.
Yeah.
They take on Luton though, Sophie. Luton are still going in the FA Cup as well. And I tell you what, they got a great result in the Premier League in midweek, Sophie.
Really good result.
I did back them to beat Brighton, but I didn't say 4-0.
No.
I don't think anyone called that, did they?
No. Imagine the odds on that.
Like we say though, I mean, they bullied them. They really did bully them, and it was revenge for what Brighton did to Luton on the opening day.
Yeah.
Adebayo's got to be full of confidence, and it's so difficult this, Sophie, isn't it? I mean, Luton come here knowing that surely it's not going to be another 4-0 win. St James's Park is a very difficult ground. It's difficult to come here and contain those fans. Obviously, Luton have got to stick to a game plan. I did back them to beat Brighton, but I think they will just lose this one. I think they've got a real chance of staying up. They are they're above the bottom three right now, but sometimes, there's going to be games where it might just be a stretch. Do you know what? I think this will be close, but I am going to go for Newcastle 2-1.
I'm going to say 2-0 Newcastle, which I feel a little bit harsh not even giving Luton a goal, but they're a much better team at home. They could go to Newcastle and get a draw. I think a win would be a bit of a stretch.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible. You never know in the Prem, but I just feel like Newcastle are going to have too much and they're going to do them 2-0.
2-0, yeah. Both go for the Geordies to win that one. Do you know what though? I am really getting excited at Luton Town's prospect for their chances of staying up though.
I would love them to stay up.
Honestly, we're both backing Newcastle, but I tell you what, it's not that we don't want Luton to get something at Newcastle. No. I'd be, very happy for them if they do.
If they did, yeah.
On to the next one, Sophie. Let's go to Bramall Lane, where Sheffield United take on Aston Villa. Now, both of these sides lost on Tuesday. Villa, they lost, of course, at home to Newcastle. Sheffield United, Soph, you did back them to beat Palace. They nearly did.
They nearly did, and then they didn't. They just did their typical selves. But it's weird because they're conceding a lot now. And when Wilder first came in, he really tightened up that defence. So I don't know what's going wrong now. Yeah,
you did back them to get 2 goals, which is what they did. But yeah, their defensive work wasn't great. It almost seems like it's a bit of a challenge between us to see who can predict Sheffield United to win and get it right. You took on the Sheffield United challenge last week and you didn't get it right. Do you know what? I'm going to do it this week, Soph. I am going to back Sheffield United to win this. Obviously, I make Aston Villa favourites, but I just think they're starting to decline a little bit. I'm not totally worried for them.
No.
I still think, European football is definitely on, but they just don't seem to be keeping up those standards, do they? And this, with it being at Bramall Lane, seems like a game Sheffield United have got to go for. I mean, they've got to go for every game now, haven't they?
Yeah, they do.
And I'm going to take on the Sheffield United challenge and back them 2-1.
Okay, best of luck with your challenge. I'm going to back them to get something. I think Villa will be the favourites going into this just because of their league position. But as you've mentioned, they've not been the best in recent weeks. And Sheffield United, they are finding their shooting boots. So I feel like there could be a few goals in this one as well. I'm going to say Desmond, 2-2 for me.
2-2, wow. Yeah, share your thoughts on that game, guys. An interesting one between Sheffield United and Aston Villa. Next up, Sophie, we are going to the Vitality, where AFC Bournemouth take on Nottingham Forest. A big game this one, Sophie, especially for Nottingham Forest. You did back them to get a 2-2 against Arsenal. You weren't far off.
I wasn't a million miles off.
No. They did go 2-0 down, and then they scored late on with a Wonyi. That's a big plus that he's back.
He's back, yeah.
But they just couldn't quite turn it into a draw at the end. And although it's not the worst performance in the world, with Luton winning and Everton drawing, it's got a little bit uncomfortable here for Nottingham Forest, and we all know, of course, there could be a possible points deduction coming later this season. So, for the first time, I am going to admit I am pretty worried here for Nottingham Forest. On paper, I think their team is capable of staying in the Premier League, and we all know that they're still missing a couple of players. But Awoniyi's now back, and I think Nuno's just got to get something here. Yeah, I think even a draw, which at Bournemouth doesn't sound impossible, but it will be tricky. Bournemouth, of course, in mid-table, they've been on a pretty decent run. They picked up some good results. I'm gonna go for a draw.
Yeah.
I've been backing Forest to win, and they keep letting me down. But I will say that they get a draw. They need to get something. Bournemouth, obviously a decent team. Gonna go 1-1.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go the same. I'm going to sit on the fence with a 1-1 draw, purely because Forest needs something from this game. They do have the quality to get the 3 points, equally so do Bournemouth, so it could go either way, and that is why I'm struggling to separate the two. It is a massive help that Awoniyi's back, so that's better for Nottingham Forest season, because as you mentioned, there is a possible point deduction looming over them, so they really need points on the board. But yeah, I'm going to agree with you. 1-1 for me too.
Yeah, I think it finished 1-1 at the Vitality last season between Bournemouth and Forest. But Forest struggled to beat Bournemouth, and it was 3-2 at the City Ground to Bournemouth. And that was Nuno's first game, of course. Big game, that one. On to the next one, Sophie, as we go to Stamford Bridge. It's Chelsea versus Wolves. To be honest, Soph, I look at this and I think two mid-table teams. Can I separate them? Not really. Chelsea, slight favourites maybe, just because of the home advantage and the quality that they've got. But Wolves have shown, time and time again this season that they can go toe-to-toe with top teams. And they beat them, didn't they? Was this the Christmas Eve game?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's quite easy to remember now when you think about it, because we never have a game on Christmas Eve. Yeah. And there was a few late goals in that game. Wolves did win 2-1. As for this one, I'm going to sit on the fence. It's another 1-1 draw for me. I think Wolves have enough to get something here, but yeah, I don't know if Chelsea are going to lose. Going to go 1-1.
Okay, yeah, Wolves definitely have enough about them to get something from this game. But I am going to edge Chelsea. They have looked a little bit better in recent weeks. Cole Palmer is looking some player for them. Yeah, I'm going to say 2-1. 2-1 Chelsea.
Yeah. Once again, that was the two predictions I was split between there, Sophie. You always seem to pinch the one that I didn't go for, and I guarantee you'll get that right now. Okay, on to the next one, Sophie. Let's go to Old Trafford, where we've got Manchester United versus West Ham United. What are we calling this, Sophie? David Moyes derby?
United derby.
The United derby. This should be an interesting game, Sophie. West Ham did beat Manchester United 2-0 just before Christmas. With it now being Old Trafford, do you know what? I really don't know, actually. I really don't know. Both teams are pretty close in the table, so it'd be great to get one up on the other, if they beat each other. I think this is the two teams I probably get the most criticism from for not backing them to win enough. So that kind of makes me not want to go for a draw here, because then I'd be backing neither of them. Alright, do you know what? With home advantage, I'm just going to go Manchester United. Man United fans, take it while it's there. I'm backing you to win a game. If you let me down,
never again.
I won't be impressed. Man United 2-1.
I can see there being goals in this one, actually. They conceded 2 against Newport, and West Ham are by far better team, so why can't they concede 2 again? But I feel like Man United I'm going to snatch it at the death. 3-2.
Wow.
Yeah, I can see there being goals in this one.
There you go. We're both going for Manchester United. I can already see the West Ham fans kicking off down in the comments. We are sorry. We are sorry. If you win this, I promise next week I'll sort it out. I'll make it up to you, West Ham fans, next week. I promise you. On to the next one, Sophie. Easily the best game this week. How about this? Arsenal versus Liverpool. This is massive, Sophie. Arsenal have just managed to claw themselves back into the title race with the win against Palace and the win against Forest. And they take on Liverpool here, Sophie, which does feel like a must-win for Arsenal. Yeah,
it is really. If they're wanting to be in the title race, it is a must-win.
Because they're chasing and they've got the home advantage, they need to win. A draw wouldn't be terrible, but you know, if you want to be a serious contender, you've got to show that you're above these teams, not just level with them, if that makes sense. Sophie, we've said before that, you know, we think it'd be great if Liverpool can win the league under Jurgen Klopp in his last season. I think I'm going to go down the middle, actually, for this one. Liverpool did win at the Emirates in the FA Cup. Arsenal just seem to have found their mojo again, but it's hard to see either of them losing, actually.
No.
I'm going to go 2-2.
Oh, so tempted to say a draw. I'm finding it really hard because I could see it going either way. Especially with Arsenal being at home, I was leaning more towards them. But no, Liverpool. Liverpool are going to do it. 2-1.
Really?
Yeah.
For God's sake, Sophie.
That'd be a massive win.
Once again, that was the prediction I nearly went for.
Okay.
And in the end, I landed on a draw. Okay, do you know what? That's fine though. At least we've gone
covering all bases.
We've gone different on that one. Well, we haven't covered an Arsenal win, but there you go. Share your thoughts if you're an Arsenal fan or a Liverpool fan. Which way does that go? Sophie's going Liverpool. I'm going draw. The final game, Sophie, is at Brentford, and they take on Manchester City. Man City, of course, the other team in the title race. They need to win this. They've got 2 games against Brentford still to come because they haven't played them at home yet, because that's a game that got rearranged because Man City were still in the Club World Cup. Do you know what? I mean, I wouldn't be totally surprised if Brentford are one of the teams that trip Man City up because, you know, they're a decent team. And although it's hard to back a team to get anything against Man City in the Premier League, Brentford are one that I think are capable.
Could do it. Okay.
But no, I am going to go for Man City. I don't think Man City can afford to mess about too much. And with their good players coming back, they've got to really go on a good run now, you know, winning 5, 6, 7 in a row, because Liverpool are top and Man City need to knock them off their perch.
Yeah.
Going to go Brentford 1, Man City 3.
Oh, yeah, that's the exact same scoreline I'm going for. 3-1 Man City. Haaland's back as well. Obviously, they got De Bruyne back a couple of weeks ago. They've got Haaland back now, back to full strength, and I think they're going to be firing. Brentford, they're not a bad team, and that's why I'm going to give them a goal. Probably would be Ivan Toney to get the goal there, but Man City need the win, and I see it happening. 3-1.
3-1. Yeah, both going for Manchester City to get past Brentford. Do share your thoughts on that one, that being the final Premier League game. That does wrap up our Premier League predictions for the weekend, guys. 10 Premier League games. Like I say, it's great to have the Premier League back in full effect. Make sure you've dropped a like on this video just to show it some support. Come on, 1,900 likes. We're not asking for much. Make sure you get involved by clicking the thumbs up button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please make sure to do so. It's free to subscribe, and it means you'll see our videos when they go out. Please hit the subscribe button to help us reach 60,000 subscribers. Thank you for joining me today, Sophie.
Thank you.
We will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.